introduce Jackie Campbell. Jackie is the CEO and founding partner of Campbell Company Wealth Advisors and CPAs, and she's a 2025 Tampa Bay Type 100 honoree. She has spent over 3 decades leading her firm, which started at her kitchen table and grew to 3 offices and national service, focusing on 360-degree approach to financial life planning and generational wealth creation. As a certified financial planner and CPA, Jackie is a recognized disruptor in the financial industry, using her expertise to serve entrepreneurs, first responders, and other clients by offering a comprehensive suite of resources. Today, Jack is going to share a framework for intentional legacy building, challenging us to consider what will be standing years from now because we were here, and how to intentionally prepare others to ensure durability. Please join me in welcoming Jackie Campbell.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And, I love the responses that we got on the poll, so we'll make sure and touch on some of those throughout the talk this morning. But, I was just reflecting as Brennan was just talking, it wasn't that many years ago that I was on the starting end of my career, but most of the things that I have learned about leadership and money was way before I ever understood what those terms were, and I bet you're in the same situation. But I grew up on a small farm in the Panhandle of Florida, and on a small farm, nothing is lazy, right? The land can't be lazy, the people can't be lazy, nothing will sustain if you're not taking care of things. And making sure that you're not neglecting your job, your task, and of course the crops or the animals. But during those times growing up in a small community, kind of like here with the Titans, you learn who your friends are. You learn who has got your back when things go wrong. They're there for the celebrations, the good times, but they're also there for those transition times, those really, really difficult family moments. If there's a barn on fire, the whole community is coming to help you kind of rise up and survive something. The same thing about those good times. Work ethic. I think that's another thing that really shows up in leaders, right? We're really driven to the core, probably from childhood, and if we take the time to reflect back on that. But my parents gave me that work ethic. My grandparents gave me that work ethic. My parents didn't work on the farm, but they certainly had a 38 and a 43-year career with the same Air Force base and at the same school system during my entire childhood. And my mom still lives on that same family farm 80 years later. So work ethic, working incredibly hard, that's just something that we have kind of inside of us from a very, very young age. Grit, that is another thing that I think is a trait and a skill that many leaders have. But the opposite of grit is vulnerability. And I think when you start to become vulnerable and you find your community, you find your group, your mentors, those that you truly can be fully honest with and trust, that's where you're able to start building something that's called a legacy. When you're just starting out your career, you're just doing everything, right? You're working hard, you're pushing through. It's those short-term wins that many of you are kind of focusing on. And it's a privilege. It's a privilege to become a leader, whether you're in a for-profit business, non-for-profit business, or own your own business or created your own, whatever your scenario may be. But leadership, though, it's still going through that same order of operations. And that's where, it gets a little bit tougher. It's not just the, reaching those day-to-day goals as we go. But at the end of the day, the years go by really fast, as they say. And each decade, as you go through that timeline of life, it's a little bit different view, right? You're a little bit at a different altitude. Things look a little bit differently as all along the way. But the main thing to remember is time is not neutral. It's not just going to stay still. Other things are not going to stay still. Time goes by so quickly. Everything is lightning speed ahead. And with technology, you add that into the mix, it's going to continue to change at a very, very rapid pace. And, I was a little bit of a nerd. I don't know if there's any other math nerds out there, but I was on the math team. So I took tests for fun when I was in high school. I know it kind of seems weird to say that out loud now that I'm older, but it seemed pretty normal back then. But time is just like money. It is part of math. It is something that compounds. And the same thing with leadership, having that ability to impact others, whether it's your clients, your customers, or the other team members that you're helping, or even the next generation that you're trying to mentor as they get a little bit older. But whatever that is, that timeline of life, each and every year, faster and faster. But time compounds. If there's problems, if there's lack of communication, lack of alignment on your team, that's going to compound over time. It's not going to smooth out and get a little bit easier as the time goes by. And that's why momentum is just not going to be enough. It feels like progress, and it can create durability over time, but what lasts is intentional. Legacy does become clearer over time, but if you don't define it, somebody else on your team will. Your clients will. Whoever else might have an influence will define what that is success is going to look like over time. And another thing is, the order of operations. I never thought that when I got to be older and decades into my career that I would be talking about, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. There is a certain order of operations, and even outside of the math room, it applies in every single one of your industries and business that you're in right now. So pay attention to what that order of operations is, what's happened, the definition of insanity, right? Keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. But the sequence, what must come first? What must follow behind that, and what steps can be skipped, because trust me, there's a lot of things we can skip out there, especially when there's not alignment on your team. When things are built out of order, that's when you're going to continue to have issues. It's not going to be able to sustain itself. And somewhere along the way, in your journey as a leader, you start figuring out and analyzing things a little bit differently. And that's where success and achieving those goals and achieving, all these achievements that you've had maybe since you got out of college, whatever those things are. But there's a slight difference between success and significance. And it all starts with clarity. Clarity, clarity, clarity. My husband, that's his favorite word. He was in law enforcement for many years, and I heard that for years, but it is so true. Anything to do with leadership and having legacy that is going to be durable, in order for it to multiply, things must be simplified first. So whether it's having your processes in line, right, making sure that they're clear and in sequential order, making sure that other people on your team are all on the same page, the proverbial same page, and making sure that you're all rowing in the same direction. I think many of us, when we're in our first stages of our career, we're worried about, building our business, building our teams, building momentum, getting our professional designations. But after that changes, into stewardship, it's the things that you cannot measure that truly begin to matter. Your money, your time, your talents, your opportunities, those are all responding to whatever you're trying to achieve and trying to balance that. I don't know about you, but it's certainly a struggle as you go through life. But understanding what that end result is going to look like is really one of the greatest things in your sequencing of being a leader. And again, I mentioned things, when you're trying to build something that lasts, making sure that you're simplifying before you multiply. I heard this many, many years ago, is there's typically going to be leaders that are going to be simplifiers. You like for things to be like the very, very simplest explanation, simplest mission, simplest value, whatever you're trying to achieve. You've got it as simple as possible. And there are others who are just, like our entrepreneurs. They're very much energized by multiplying things. If you figure out a process or a way to do something, you want to do it 2 or 3 other ways to make it a little better and multiply that concept. So making sure that you're working on building something that lasts on purpose. That can help reduce the dependency on you. I know as a founder from a kitchen table, the business does and has for a long time relied just on me. And that's great when you're first starting out, because you want to be wanted, you like to be needed, and you like to create a difference in someone's life. Being in the financial industry, I really do value being that trusted mentor. But there becomes a time in your business that you need to have others making sure that they can do things, and this business will be successful beyond just you. One of my very favorite quotes is from Carl Bard, and it's, though you can't go back and change anything, you can start from today and make a brand new ending. And every time when I get frustrated and I think, well, things aren't working right, or I didn't do something quite as well as I could have, I try to reflect and quote that to myself, that I can't go back and change things. Things can't be undone, but I can certainly start from today and work on whatever needs to be changed in that sequence as we move forward. Because at the end of the day, having the right processes, making sure that you're aligning your systems and your people, and that it's executed the same, right? Doing things the same way, making the cakes the same way. Those are the ways that you can truly, truly build something that's going to be lasting for decades. And if being in business for 4 decades, I have seen it all. Personal computers were just coming out then. Technology has changed so much. We have cell phones, we have the internet, we have laptops. There are so many things. But I will tell you, the greatest technology evolution that I've seen in my 40-year career is AI. And the reason is because it's a thinking partner. It's not just a tool to help make you do things a little bit more efficiently and faster and cheaper, but it absolutely is a great thinking partner. But learning how to use the prompts correctly, that is the greatest challenge. It's not just a word processor or an editing tool to help you. And I'm sure we're going to see more people that are, saying that, AI is our best friend, because I know they don't, AI doesn't talk back to you. AI just tells you how great you're doing with your ideas. So again, advanced technology, no matter how much that advances and improves, the human side of every industry, every single thing that we do as leaders is going to come down to relationships and trust. And technology may accelerate all the things that we do, our thinking, the way we're able to create things, patents. I mean, you can write a software, you can design a website in a couple hours, you can come up with a complete business plan within an hour or two. It is amazing the things that you can accomplish in a really short time. And yes, there are some positions in all businesses that are going to be reduced significantly, if not eliminated. But staying on top of that and figuring those things out in your industry, that is our responsibility as leaders, and also to know how we're supposed to adapt during all of these technology changes. But at the end of the day, trust is what matters. Clarity, trust, stewardship, and human connection, those are the things that are going to continue to matter most, no matter how much technology continues to change. And clarity. Again, it's that clarity word, right? That my husband and I used to butt heads for, almost being married for 40 years. Being really clear about something, having your goals, your vision, what you're trying to accomplish for your company, knowing what your values are, getting really clear on that, and making sure all the leadership team is on the same page, and making sure that you're changing and evolving as your client base changes as well, I think is extremely important. And confidence. Most people, whether it's your personal financial life, your business financial life, being an employee, being a spouse, being a parent, clarity and confidence are the two things that most people are looking for in life. And if you can help provide the clarity as a leader, you're going to be able to help give the confidence to your teammates, to your clients, and help build that lasting legacy for your company. The challenge is they need the direction. And where's the direction going to come from? The direction is going to come from you, the leader. And once you can get someone else confident with the direction that they're heading, they're going to have the clarity, they're going to have the confidence, and then you're going to be able to finally get your legs on your legacy. That is the very best way to have that lasting legacy, because sometimes when we're only focusing on those short-term gains and goals, you're losing at such a slow pace, you don't even know you're losing. You still think you're winning. So making sure that you're looking at that big picture, use technology, use AI, get your team on the same page, have those alignment conversations and processes. Make sure your processes are repeatable and they're as simple as possible as you go forward. There's no really such thing as being having failure, right, in any part of our life, whether it's leadership or our personal life. But one thing that I learned many years ago is gap thinking. Right? How many of us, when we measure something, what we did for the week or what we've done for the year so far, we're looking at what we did do. Maybe you did 9 good things, but if you did one thing wrong or you didn't get to that one big thing that you were trying to complete and accomplish, you look at yourself as not being successful. So paying attention to that gap thinking, the gap and the gain. This is a quote, conversation, a book from Dan Sullivan many years ago that I was able to kind of really start paying attention. And again, it ties back into that whole thinking and mindset that you got from childhood, whether it's a relationship with money, work, your work ethic, relationships, or trust, whatever that may be. You can never reach the horizon, right? You keep driving and driving, and the horizon keeps changing. The goals keep changing. That is exactly what happens to us as leaders. And it's not always about having all the right answers. Sometimes it's about asking better questions. And really, that's what I wanted to go over with you today. I have this legacy that multiplies without you. This is something that I've struggled with myself, making sure, because I love to multiply things, but having that simple framework so that we can keep working forward into whatever is going to be your next. Because the really important thing for today's conversation, you're taking out time out of your really busy schedule. It's going to be something that's going to be an action to help give you the clarity, the confidence, so that you can be clear and help others with the direction so that you can build legs on your legacy. So we do have in the resource tab there a form that you can download. It's the form that's right here, the legacy that multiplies without you. So if you haven't already seen that, it looks like it may be in the chat there as well. Carla just posted that, so you can download that, fill it in later, or just write these notes on a piece of paper. So as we kind of go through this, remember that legacy is built on first things first. There is an order of operations. So if we look at the past, what actually mattered most to you for your past? So just take a minute and just write something down. Maybe that could be what shaped you or who helped shape you, who helped you along your journey that has had a really lasting impact on you, or maybe what you're most proud of. And this could be within the past 90 days, the past year, or your career. So just take a minute and jot something down there. What mattered most to you so far? And next, we've got the present. What matters most to you right now? What is going well? What needs some attention? When you answered that survey at the beginning, maybe that give you some ideas, that, you need to get some team alignment, or you need to have some processes, or you need to focus on long-term winning and goals, not just today. And then next, your future. What will last? Those questions become tougher and tougher as we get older. And what do you want to be remembered about you? What do you hope that continues? And what legacy do you want to leave? All right, as you're finishing up there, I always think that it's really helpful to look at past, present, future. It helps you to look back to see what the patterns are, what maybe has got you to where you're at. Be grateful for those things. Don't just look at the gap thinking. Look at where you're at presently. What should you be most proud of? Because sometimes we forget we're our own worst critics, and we are leaving a legacy, whether it's one that we are going to be proud of or not. So looking at what you're doing presently, some of those things that might need our attention or clarity, and then looking ahead at the future, not just the next 30, 60, 90 days, but looking ahead at what will help you create a legacy that is going to multiply without you. Hey, well, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. I know as busy CEOs and entrepreneurs, we just as individuals, we just have so much on our plate. But thank you for taking time to go through some of these things today. And legacy. What does that mean to you? It's interesting. In the breakout room that I was in, we talked about the past, present, and the future, and the most important thing is what really impacted the ones that in my group was someone who made them feel important. Mentors, family members, somebody, a teacher, somebody that made them feel important. As far as you can do anything you set your mind to. That was one of the comments that was made. But having experiences, talking, having thinking time, and to have travel time. And of course, the order of operations came up again, that please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. What is important, having your North Star, and health and wellness. We can't be good leaders if we're not taking care of ourselves. So, just remember that, and so grateful to be here and appreciate it. And the Titans are really a wonderful community to be able to have those vulnerable conversations with, so that you don't feel judged and you're not scaring everybody that's working with you. So I wish you the best of the rest of the day and the week.